Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in the year 2021. We are on day 227, and we're looking at Jeremiah chapters 30 and 31. So just two chapters today. So it shouldn't take us too long, right? So picking up in verse 3, we're going to see going forward now, just like what we saw with Isaiah, there comes a point in the prophet's writing where we go from a lot of condemnation, a lot of promising of the coming time out, the punishment, the consequences of their sin. And we switch it up now, and it becomes much more positive about what happens after the timeout. And we find with Jeremiah actually gives us a timeline. He gives us 70 years. That's how long it's going to take. So there's a lot of positive things. So you're going to notice as we go through. So in verse 3, the time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will bring back my people, Israel and Judah, from captivity, says the Lord. I will bring them home to the land that I gave to their ancestors, and they will possess it. So this is, the enemy's at the door, and this is the message that the Lord is now giving to them. And if we drop down to verse 8 and 9, at that time I will break the yoke off their necks and remove their shackles. Foreigners will no longer enslave them, declares the Lord of heavenly forces. They will serve the Lord their God, and the king whom I will raise up for them from David's family. So also a little foreshadowing or prophecy, if you want, of the time to come. In verse 10, it really struck me all through this. The promises that are being given will not be experienced by the people being taken into captivity. In 70 years, they're all going to be dead. But it was the same thing that happened in the desert. When the Lord told them that I'm going to send you into the desert for 40 years until this generation has died out, and then my hope is placed in your children. And that's what's being said here, is that these promises are seed for the children, for the children of those who are being led off into captivity. He even tells them, like, when you're in captivity, have children, because this promise is going to belong to them too. So he says in verse 10 here, so don't be afraid, my servant Jacob, declares the Lord. Don't lose hope, Israel. I will deliver you from faraway places. Now he's talking to the nation. Remember, he will deliver the nation and your children from the land of their exile. My people, Jacob, will again be safe and sound with no one harassing them. So this is a hope that the parents need to speak into the children now. And even some of them will be very old when it comes to pass. In verses 18 and 19, again, think, these are promises for the children. The Lord proclaims, I will restore Jacob's tents. I have pity on their birthplace. Their city will be rebuilt on its ruins, and the palace in its rightful place. There will be laughter and songs of thanks. I will add to their numbers so that they don't dwindle away. I will honor them so they aren't humiliated. Continuing in verses 21, 22, they will have their own leader. Their ruler will come from among them. I will let him approach me, and he will draw near. Who would dare approach me unless I let them come, declares the Lord. You will be my people, and I will be your God. So think of every word that is being spoken now will not be experienced by anyone who's being led off into captivity now. This is for the new generation, the generation to come. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? If we turn the page to the second chapter, chapter 31, we just find here that desire for restoration of relationship. Again, as the enemy is at the door, and as many have now experienced deportation, verses 2 to 3, as Israel searched for a place of rest, the Lord appeared to them from a distance. I have loved you with a love that lasts forever. And so with unfailing love, I have drawn you to myself. So that is the word that he will come with for those who are at great distance. Come to me. Yeah, sound familiar? Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. In verse 7, sometimes just surviving, sometimes just being alive, sometimes just waking up in the morning is enough to celebrate. The Lord proclaims, sing joyfully for the people of Jacob. Shout for the leading nation. Raise your voices with praise and call out, the Lord has saved his people, the remaining few in Israel. Now you get that, right? The remaining few in Israel. So, and if you've read ahead, and I know most of you have, you'll know that when we look at those who return from exile, it's not a huge numbers, like millions. Millions were either killed or deported. And what comes back is just a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of them. Now look at this. Remember, the enemy's at the gate. Look what Yahweh is saying. In verse 11 and 12, the Lord will rescue the people of Jacob and deliver them from the power of those stronger than they are. They're coming through the gate. Deliver them from the power of those stronger than they are. It doesn't look like it, but he's already warned them that nothing is going to stop this. You are going to be deported. Nothing is going to stop you from losing here. You will not get the victory here, but you will get the victory later. You will return. They will come shouting for joy on the hills of Zion, jubilant over the Lord's gifts, grain, wine, oil, flocks, and herds. Their lives will be like a lush garden. They will grieve no more. So sometimes the problem that we have is not understanding the prophecy that's being given to us. What we're being told is that we will have victory, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to have to walk through what we're walking through. We will have victory on the other side of it. We will have victory. We will overcome. We will be restored. We will be renewed. We will receive. We will grow from this thing that the Lord has us walking through, but he intends us to walk through it. So we have to have relationships where our heart is open to any possibility, anything that the Lord wants to do. That we are willing to submit ourselves to, because there's purpose in everything that he does. And when he takes us through something, it's usually so new things will grow. And here we have Israel's future lament in verses 18 and 19. I hear Ephraim lamenting. Now remember, Ephraim is another name that the Lord would use for Israel. I hear Ephraim lamenting. You disciplined me, and I learned my lesson, even though I was as stubborn as a mule. Bring me back, let me return, because you are the Lord my God. After I turned away from you, I regretted it. I realized what I had done, and I have hit myself. I was humiliated and disgraced. I have carried this disgrace since I was young. So the Lord already knows the future, even as his people are being marched away. He knows that they will come to this place, this humble place, this place where they bow before him and say, I was wrong. So try understanding this from Yahweh's perspective. In verse 20, isn't Ephraim my much loved child? Don't I utterly adore him? Even when I scold him, I still hold him dear. I yearn for him and love him deeply, declares the Lord. So he feels this. He absolutely feels this. This isn't what he wants. This was not his desire, but he knows if he doesn't take action, then everything will be lost. And he has to do this for the sake of, let's refer to Ephraim, for the sake of Ephraim. He's got to do this, but he doesn't want to. And it's causing himself a great deal of pain. And then in verses 33 to 34, we have a promised new covenant. No, this is the covenant that I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my instructions within them, engrave them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. They will no longer need to teach each other to say, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wrongdoing and never again remember their sins. So again, we are given some insight into the very last days. So let's leave it on that positive note, shall we? And you guys have a fantastic day, and we will catch up again tomorrow. Thanks for being on the journey with me. Love you guys. Talk to you tomorrow.